Hey everybody, good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And hopefully you can see my screen. We're going to start in a few minutes. If you see two dogs on the beach, you're doing good. We'll give everyone a few minutes to join. We were scheduled to have about 40, so right now we're looking at 17 people here. So we'll give it a few minutes, see if anyone else joins. All right, we should be good to start in about 2 minutes. And yes, they're my dogs. All right, you're gonna make me show my dogs, aren't you? I live in Jacksonville, Florida. This was actually the day after the last hurricane that came through. So there were these huge tide pools that were probably about 10 yards long and about 4 feet deep. And we finally convinced them to swim through because they don't really like swimming. And this sandbar ran the entire length of the beach, and they just ran up and down the sandbar, and it was pretty fun. All right, let's give it 2 more minutes. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me apologize in advance. I've been fighting a cold for the last week, and today I think I lost. So if I cough or anything like that, I apologize. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to use workflow to improve CargoWise efficiency. Workflow is an awesome tool that could really help you gain efficiencies in your business. So today we're going to cover what exactly workflow is, how you can use workflow to improve productivity, the tools within workflow, so tasks, milestones, exceptions, and triggers, and then some other tools that are available on the workflow tab that'll help you improve productivity, your screen layouts, and custom fields. What we're not going to be able to cover are specific workflow questions relating to your company. And we're not going to get into the super complex workflow setup and scenarios. We just have an hour today to go through every possible scenario of workflow. We would be here till Monday. There are so many different things that workflow can do. CargoWise actually used to offer a class on workflow, and it was a week long. So what is workflow? Workflow is the tool. That's the key word right there. Workflow is a tool. It is a company process, not a system process. It is your process managed in the system. So it's your SOPs used through the tool that is workflow. So a lot of times when I work with clients in setting up their workflow, what we're really doing is defining SOPs. If you don't have hard and fast SOPs, you're going to have a little bit of trouble setting up your workflow. So workflow and tracking is everywhere. Almost everywhere within CargoWise, you're going to see a workflow and tracking tab. So look up here, top right corner, there's workflow and tracking for AP invoices. There's workflow and tracking for orders. There's workflow and tracking for shipments. We're going to focus mainly on shipments today, but just keep in mind that workflow and tracking is available on almost every type of job in CargoWise. Remember that little bell. We're going to come back to that little bell in a bit. So how do I use and view workflow on a job? Well, this is a shipment job. If I go to workflow and tracking, I see 5 tabs. I see tasks, milestones, exceptions, triggers, and events. So what are these? Tasks are functions or processes within a job. Basically, they're your to-do list. In most cases, you're going to have manually marked tasks as complete. In some cases, you can set a milestone to complete a task. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Milestones are the key dates in the life cycle of the job. To me, milestones are the most important part of workflow. You can publish milestone dates in Web Tracker, or you can use them internally. Any unpublished milestone dates, you can do key performance indicators, you can run reports off of. Basically any milestones you can run reports off of. Milestones are the key, and we're going to get into a lot more detail on that later. Exceptions. Remember that red bell? Remember when I told you to remember that red bell? That red bell means there's an exception. Exceptions are caused when milestones are not completed within the time frame determined in the workflow. So you can set up exceptions within your workflow based on the milestones. So you could have a milestone, easiest one to explain it is estimated time of departure, actual time of departure. You can set up the actual time of departure as a milestone. So when that ATD box is filled in, the milestone's filled in. You can set an exception and say, hey, flag this for an exception 24 hours after ETD. So in other words, I said it's going to leave the 27th. On the 28th, I'm going to get an exception. I'm going to get a red bell that says, hey, what happened here? This was supposed to leave the 27th. Did you forget to put in the date? Did something happen on the boat? Did something happen on the plane? So that's what that bell tells you at a glance, and that's how you set up exceptions. Triggers. Trigger starts something in motion. So milestones versus triggers. There's always some confusion on this. A milestone can be set to give you a warning. So in other words, again, using the simplest one out there, ETD. You can set a milestone that says, okay, if the ETD is not met, send an email. Boom, hey, ETD was not met. ETD is past due. A milestone can send a one-time alert. Triggers can be set so that they are sent multiple times. So there's 2 different ways to do this. Again, using ETD, you can set a trigger that says every time ETD changes, send an email to the client. Those of you who use container tracking, I think that's a bad idea because container tracking may move it 4 or 5 times before it even goes out. You don't want your client getting all those. Or you can set a trigger that says, okay, every day after ETD, send an email to the user who's responsible for this record saying ETA has not been completed. So that would remind you every single day, hey, this job doesn't have an ETA, this job doesn't have an ETA, this job doesn't have an ETA. There are positives and negatives to that. Next, we've got events. Events are logged on the events tab of a job, either automatically, and I'll show you that, through user activity, or via EDI like container automation. They're going to be a 3-code character. Events are a great tab that show you what happened on this job behind the scenes. What's been entered on the job. So I talked about a lot of different things. How are you going to use workflow? I like to think of workflow like pizza. Everybody likes it, except my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is the only person on earth I know who doesn't like pizza, but I digress. Everybody likes workflow. Everybody agrees that they need workflow to manage their business more effectively. But there are thousands of different ways that you can use workflow. Just like there's thousands of different ways you can make a pizza. There's no wrong way to do it, except pineapple. Pineapple is wrong. But there's no wrong way to make a pizza. You know, I don't know, mushrooms. Mushrooms can be tasks. Some people love them. Some people say absolutely not. It's just busy work. Don't want them. You know, you could set up different things. You know, I don't know, pepperoni can be triggers. Some people say, ugh, too greasy, don't like it. Some people say, oh yeah, I gotta have those. Some people say, I don't want all those emails. Some people say, nope, we need those to do our things correctly. Also in using workflows, little joke here, I love green peppers on pizza. Green peppers don't like me. So I usually don't get them. When you're looking at workflow, it's easy to get drunk on workflow. Oh yeah, we're gonna do all this stuff. It's gonna be awesome. Be careful with that. Start out slow. Put 5 things in place. Then add 5 more. Then add 5 more. Because you will lose your users if you give them a 30-item workflow right off the bat. So start out slow, add more. Start out slow, add more. And that leads to the next question I get all the time when it comes to workflow. People always say, is this going to cause more work? Oh, there's so many more things I need to do because of workflow. No, there's not. For those of you who aren't football fans, I love this quote. It's by a guy named Bill Belichick. He's the coach of the New England football team here in the States. And he has one simple quote he gives to his team. Do your job. Do what you're supposed to do. Don't worry about what other people are supposed to do. Don't get distracted from what you're supposed to do because you're doing somebody else's job. Do your job. That is how workflow should be set up. I just worked with somebody and we set up their workflow. There's 17 workflow items. There's 17 milestones. You know how many the user should go in and enter a date for? None. They're basic milestones, and we'll talk about the types of milestones in a little bit. If I'm putting in my dates correctly, milestones will populate themselves. If container tracking is put in correctly and being used correctly, dates will populate themselves. It's also really good for paperless stuff. If I'm putting in my documents that I should be putting in eDocs, workflow takes care of itself. So the workflow templates, this is key. This is where you need to go to set up workflow. It's where your processes are laid out. There's 3 different things you need to know about workflow templates. There's the templates themselves, there's the screen layout, and there's custom fields. We'll talk about all 3. So where are these? They're under Maintain, Workflow Manager, Workflow Templates. Admins, treat this like the registry. People can do some damage if they don't know what they're doing in here. Not everybody should have access to workflow templates. In fact, I would say very few should have access to actually edit workflow templates. I would say whoever's in charge of your registry and maybe one more person in case that person wins the lottery. That's about it. There's a lot, it affects the entire layout of the screens that you're going to be using to do your job. So be careful with it. So how do you create a new workflow template? Well, you can hit new, easy way to do it. I'm a big believer in doing things simply though. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's a road freight domestic shipment template. You know what? If I want to set up a road freight ship template, say that fast. A road freight domestic template. Don't reinvent the wheel, guys. Right click in the gutter right there and hit copy. And you can copy the template that's there, and then you can make your tweaks. Records are always going to follow the most detailed template. So look up here. I've got two templates here. I've got my regular C import shipment, and I've got a shipment C freight import for client test 1. This template will only work for client test 1. So why is this useful? Everybody's got that one big client that wants certain things. I've seen it done before where, well, you know, Puma wants it. So guess what? Everybody's got to have it on their shipment records. No. You can set up a template for just that client. You can choose the process type. You can choose a transport mode. You can use a direction. You can choose a branch. So if Dallas and Atlanta do things a little bit differently, no problem. This branch is for this template's for Dallas, this template's for Atlanta. You can set it up by origin or destination. You know what? There's certain things we got to do on shipments from Brazil. So we're going to go in and set the origin as Brazil. Anything coming from Brazil, a little bit different. You can change start and end dates. So if you got to change things up for peak season, you can do that. And then once you narrow your template down here, you come to this screen. So you've got all the different tabs you can go through. We're going to go through most of them. We're going to go through, first we'll go through tasks. They have their own tab within a workflow template and their own tab within a job. There are pros and cons of tasks. So like I said before, it's basically a user to-do list. It allows you to hold your SOP data in one place. So if you've got a detailed SOP that says do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, you can make each one of those steps a task. You can set up rules via macros, which allow tasks to be added or removed based on what happens. So that's for if-then scenarios. You know, if A, then add these 5 tasks. If B, then add these 5 tasks. The one bummer about tasks, they're usually manually controlled. So the user has to go in and close the tasks. Now you can set up a task that will close based on a milestone. But my argument in that case has always been, well, then why not just use milestones? And again, there's no wrong way to do this. I have my opinion on some stuff, but that doesn't make me right. You know your business better than anyone. Now, if there's 4 people in an office and everybody in the office has been there for 5 years and everybody knows how to create records inside and out, I wouldn't use tasks. I would say, nope, let's use milestones. Let's have those things auto close and let's make our jobs faster. Now, if you've got 50 people in your import department and you're hiring 3 new people every month, I would use tasks because guess what? It keeps you an SOP that everyone must follow. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? It also gives you as a manager some real insight. You know, realistically, if I hire 3 new people in the import department, I know one of them is not going to make it 90 days. Which one? Well, who's completing their tasks? Who's doing the jobs correctly? I can use tasks to do that. So to view your tasks, you have your own screen. You can go to Manage, Workflow and Process Task List. And when you do that, you can use search items to find your tasks. So you can say, show me every task for an exact group or an exact user. Show me every overdue task. Show me by scheduled date. Show me if it's complete or non-complete. I actually hate this overdue only because that means you're playing catch up. I would do my scheduled start, like today's Thursday afternoon. You know what? I want to make sure I got everything done for today and I want to get a jump on tomorrow. I'll put my scheduled start date in as tomorrow. And I'll see right now everything I got to do tomorrow. And if I can jump ahead and get some stuff done, great. Tomorrow, I'm going to see everything that's due over the weekend. So let's get as much of that done as possible so it's not all sitting on my desk Monday morning. Make sense? So how do you complete a task? Well, you can come up here, change your task status to closed as completed. Completed time will populate. Any notes you want to put in on the task, you can put in right here. The user can also manually add tasks. So the task screen, again, doesn't have to just be used for shipments. At Lading, we were using this for project management for a while, and we could add our own tasks there. I know for a fact CargoWise uses tasks in the CRM. CargoWise sales team actually uses their own CRM, and they create their own tasks. So I can come to New, create my task, complete my task. This becomes your to-do list. Any questions on tasks? Anyone? Anyone? Question. What's a CRM? Great question. Customer relationship management. So that's the sales piece in CargoWise. So like CargoWise has a CRM, which is the sales piece. Salesforce is probably the most well-known CRM system. It's a tracking system for salespeople. So if you just signed up with CargoWise, they had you in there as an organization. They tracked all of the tasks they did with you. They tracked all the calls they made with you, all that good stuff. They used the sales piece in CargoWise to do all that. Milestones. Okay, guys, this is the key to everything. Milestones to me are by far the most important part of workflow. They're key achievements in a job that you can do several things with. You can trigger an action once completed. So in other words, you can send an email once it's complete. You can update web tracker once it's complete. You can send a document when it's complete. We talked a little bit about exceptions. You can create an exception when a milestone is not complete. You can publish these to web tracker. Now, multiple templates are going to affect a job. So for example, a shipment is going to have milestones from both the console and the shipment on it. Milestones are going to be here under the milestone tab of a workflow template. So this is an ocean freight template for Prestige Worldwide. Notice I didn't put a direction. So this same template would be used for import and export. These are going to be all of my milestones. What does this look like on a job? It looks like this. Here are workflow and tracking milestones. This is actually a shipment. And I have all of my milestones for a consolidation. I have all of my milestones for a shipment here. One little helpful hint when you're setting these up, guys, CargoWise is going to set them up as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I always like to set mine up as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Why? Because, like I said, I was on the phone with a client yesterday. They had 17 milestones set up for a shipment. We're going through, we're walking through all the steps on their SOP. And like, oh, what about this? Yeah, there's two, I remember now, they said there's 2 arrival notices, one from the carrier and one we send to the client. We only have the arrival notice sent to the client here. We don't have when we receive the arrival notice to the carrier, from the carrier. I said, okay, let's add that. So we added in that milestone, and it was between milestone 11 and milestone 12. Because I numbered them 110, 120, 130, we just numbered the new one 115, and we slipped it right in there. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel and renumber all these things. And I'm a bad typist, so I probably would have made a mistake. So how do you complete a milestone? A couple different ways you can complete a milestone. So look at this one. Departure from first load port. What is that? Well, that's departure. That's actual time of departure. What's the easiest way to complete that milestone? Do your job. Put in your actual time of departure. Done. Milestone complete. If you want to, you can come in and type it in the milestone screen, and it will then update your actual consolidation screen if you wanted to. All right, there's a couple different types of milestones. The easiest one to set up is probably going to be an event milestone. So an event milestone, just for an example, we talked about ATA, actual time of arrival. Here's my milestone, destination arrival. My milestone will be marked as complete when arrival happens. Couldn't be simpler. What other milestones can you set up? You can set up what I'm calling document milestones. Document milestones are the key to going paperless. So you want to set up your document. So many times you say, well, I got to have a copy of this document. I got to have a copy of this document. I got to have a copy of this document. Where do you keep them all? In a folder. Where do you keep the folder? On your desk. So right now, and tell me, those of you guys who keep paper folders on your desk, how often this has happened to you? You know what? I'm out sick today. Like I said, I got a cold. I feel like dirt. If I call in sick tomorrow, you're going to have to call me at home and say, oh, I'm sorry to bother you, but where is this document for shipment blah, blah, blah? Oh, okay, go to my desk. Do you see the file folders in the left-hand corner of my desk? It should be like the 3rd or the 4th one up. Go in there and it should be in there. How flippin' inefficient is that? You go paperless. Throw all of your documents in eDocs. And when you do that, it's actually easier. Management spends less time. Do you have that document? They just go to the record, and it's either there or it's not there. Users aren't bugged. Users don't have to go and save it to their desktop and then print it and then delete it from their desktop and then put it in the file. None of that. drop it in eDocs. So you can do it two ways with document milestones. So this one is the complicated way. All import docs received. I can come in here and put an event code in. And then I can go to my document milestones. And I can say that, hey, all of these documents are required on a shipment. And when I have all of these document types in eDocs, it'll mark it as complete. Or you can go in and go one at a time and say arrival notice, invoice. When you save those document types to eDocs, it completes the line item. Let's talk about triggers. Triggers are really cool. Milestones can have triggers in addition to the actual milestone. These triggers do automatic things for you, like sending documents. So how cool would it be if you can send an arrival notice as soon as the ETA was in there, or ATA? Well, it arrived, send the arrival notice. We can do that, trigger. When the ATA is populated, send an arrival notice. Emails to send advice status of changes. What happens if something changes? Hey, the ETA changed. Oop, send an email, either to the client or to you. Auto rating. Well, when something happens, when this milestone happens, automatically go in and do auto rating. Auto updating select fields. Well, when the ATA happens, populate this custom field. You can set all of those up for you. And triggers are set down here. So I've got to highlight my item. So I highlight my milestone and I go to my trigger. So for example, I can set a trigger and say send document. I can do add document to eDocs, send notification emails. These are all the different types of triggers I can set. I don't know if you're familiar with service tasks, but service tasks are always working in the background and they automatically send things. So a lot of times I get people who say, oh, my things aren't going through to customs. You know, the first thing I do, I go to service tasks. There's one in there for customs. I don't remember what it's called, but I go in there and make sure that that one's done. One called event log walker service, that's for triggers. Every 5 minutes, it looks and says, okay, are there any triggers in there that need to go out? Oh, yes, there's 2, send them out. There's none, okay, I'll wait 5 minutes. There's 1, send it out. And it sends out those triggers every 5 minutes. By default, you can make it shorter or longer if you want. Some people change it to a half hour, some people change it to 2 minutes. So here's a sample of how to send a document. Arrival at destination. My action is a document, shipment arrival notice, and I'm going to send my arrival notice. Be careful when you do this. Notice my recipient. You have to make sure that your organizations are set up correctly. So those of you who I've worked with before and for a while now, you know that I always say organizations are the key to everything. This step, where was it? This step will not work if you don't have a good organization. So you must have a contact set to receive a document. Does everybody know how to do this on an organization? So when you go to an organization, I've got an organization here called Rick's Pickles. I can go here and I can put in my contacts. Now for big organizations, you can get fancy. So you can say, okay, Rick's the owner, so he gets all the invoices, and I can change this group to AR. Summer gets all the sales stuff, so I can change the group to sales. Morty gets all the consignor and consignee stuff, and I can set that up there. For big clients, you're going to want to do that. So different people get different things. But guys, for your average, good customer who brings things in, and all of you have them. I was at a place I thought was really interesting. They brought in orchids from Israel. And they have some regular customers that are pretty small shops, 1 or 2 people they always talk to. Don't reinvent the wheel here. Set up that person, and under documents to receive, put all for the group. So that way, I'm covered. Morty's going to get every document automatically. Now, one of the differences between milestones and tasks is milestones can be searched within the job type. So for example, I'm in a job type shipment. So inside of my job type shipment, I can search for last completed milestone. I can search by a date that a milestone is completed. I can search by a date the next milestone is due. I can do all different kinds of searches here based on my milestones, and I don't need to go to a different screen. Again, this is to me, it's an advantage over tasks. Tasks, you go somewhere else to see your tasks. If you're doing your job inside of the job, and I'm using milestones and not tasks, I can look up my milestones right, just like I'm looking up anything else for my shipments. Next, we've got exceptions. Exceptions are going to be their own tab under workflow and tracking of a job, but they are not a tab within the template. And exceptions only happen once they occur. So you really do not ever want to see an exception. An exception means something's messed up. An exception means something didn't happen on time. And to create an exception, you actually want to be on the milestone. And for each one of these, we could set an exception. You can do either an EXC, which will trigger at the end of the day, or you could do an EXF, which is immediately. So if my estimated time of arrival was 3:40 Eastern time on, what day is it? 29th? 30th. On the 30th. If I set it to EXF, boop, I would get the exception right away. If I set it to EXC, I would get it tomorrow. And it would give me that red bell telling me you have an exception. Also, when you create an exception, you can set exceptions up based on other dates. So my destination arrival, I have an exception. It's based off of arrival. When do I want this flagged? I want this flagged 24 hours after ETA. So if ETD didn't happen 24 hours after ETA, flag it. You can also use negative numbers here. So if I need to invoice something 3 days before arrival, I can set it up and say invoice can be a milestone, and I could say negative 72 hours from ETA. So if it's going to arrive on the 1st, I better bill it today. Then there's triggers. What's a trigger? It's a unique tab on workflow templates for both the job and the template. The key difference with triggers versus milestone triggers is they can be generated multiple times. Triggers can create trigger actions from selected field changes. So, like I said before, ETA. If ETA was the 28th, you can set a trigger on the milestone that says, hey, if it didn't happen on the 28th, send an email. That milestone trigger is going to send that one email on the 29th. A trigger here is going to send one on the 29th, on the 30th, on the 1st, on the 2nd, on the 3rd, on the 4th, on the 5th, until it's done. Is that a good thing for you? Depends. Some people love it, some people hate it. I would never set a trigger for a client-based thing. Quick story, I ordered a shirt from Under Armour at Christmas time. So right after I ordered it, I got a very nice email from Under Armour, showed me a picture of the shirt, showed me an estimated time of arrival, blah, blah, blah. Cool. The next day, I got an email from Under Armour, very nice picture of the shirt, said, okay, we've taken your package and it's sitting in our mailing department. Okay, great. The next day, I got an email from Under Armour. It has now been picked up by UPS. Okay, great. I got an email the next day from Under Armour. It is now flown from UPS in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know where it was from. Somewhere, I forget. To Jacksonville. It is now on our truck. Got an email the next, like 3 hours later. The truck is in your neighborhood. I was like, holy cow. Now, it's kind of nice, and it was very professional in the way they did it. But, Jesus, if I am moving 20 shipments a week with you guys, I don't want 5 emails for every one of those 20 shipments. So know your client. Know when to use triggers. Now, do I want to harass somebody if they have not been billed every day until they bill that job? Yeah, that's when I'd use a trigger. Okay, so I think I just said all this. When should triggers be used as opposed to milestones? Triggers should be used when the same action may be required multiple times for the same event. It's an action for an event that you do not wish to track as a milestone. So if you have something like an agent split, I would put that in as a trigger, not as a milestone. Or if I put it as a milestone, I would not publish it because I don't want my client to see that, hey, I'm splitting things with the agent. Okay, so how do you do this? Well, first in triggers, find the field. So this field is ETA change. Find the trigger field in here. Determine what you're going to send. So I'm going to send a notification to the consignee on the event. Notice there's no email address here. Remember we talked about the org? We want to make sure that our orgs are set up correctly or this will not work. Because I'm going to automatically send a notification to the consignee that says shipment number, blah, estimated time of arrival has changed. You can actually put another field in there that says to, and then it'll populate the new date. Again, think about how you use this. How many times do you want to contact your client? Now this I would do. Here's another one. Import documents not received. So I should have had all those documents in for this job. Well, guess what? I'm going to send a notification every darn day to myself until I complete that milestone. Does that make sense? Anna Connor raised her hand. Yes, question. Go ahead and use the chat box if you have any questions. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is going to be macros. Yes, excellent question, Anna. Triggers are accessed by maintain workflow templates. Sorry about that. So just like tasks and milestones, triggers are right there. So they're on the workflow task tab. All right. So the toughest part of this whole thing is macros. This is the part that could keep us here till Monday if we had to talk about different macros. There are thousands of different macros that you can use in workflow. They're going to be expressions on the job that determine whether a task, milestone, or trigger should be applied to the job. They're going to use job properties to define expressions that you create. So this is how you can go in and search for things that are not part of the standard searches through macros. Let me give you an example of that. To use a macro, you need your template condition number 2 to be set to UDF. And CargoWise has some really good videos on macros, probably about 20 of them. I'm not going to be able to get into the detail of macros. Like I said, we'd be here till Tuesday. But there's some good videos on them if you want to watch them. I will tell you this, you need to go to user-defined UDF, and you need to then come in and put in your macro. So how do you find a macro? It's hard. When we build workflows for people, this is probably half of what we build because it's hard to find these macros. So if I'm here and I have that little box with 3 dots, whenever I click on that box, this screen pops up. And every data field within a record will appear. There could be thousands of them. Let me give you a little hint that helps you find them a little bit easier. Don't look through that whole list. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Go to the job, and on the job, find what you're looking for. So this is a shipment job. I'm looking for chargeable units. So if I wanted to set up a macro using chargeable units, I would click inside that box and I would hit Control Shift R. Control Shift R. And this box to the right is going to pop up. You need to scroll down through here until you find something called binding member. Sorry, I expanded this as big as I could. Can everybody see binding member right there? In this case, it's JS_actual chargeable. Write it down or screenshot it. I have a program I use called Snagit, which really helps with this. So once you've got that, come back to the macro screen. Now at least you know what you're looking for. So you could scroll through the list and you could find what you're looking for a heck of a lot easier. Or do what I do. Control F. Any of you ever use Control F in the registry? It works the same way here. Go Control F, type it in, and hit find. So I hit Control F, I typed in actual charge, and ta-da, JS_actual chargeable. So I highlight it, and I hit the add button to add them to write the macro. And again, there's some really good videos that'll give you more detail. We've got a team of people that can help you if you need help. Excuse me. All right, let's talk about the lowest hanging fruit on the workflow template, and that's screen layout. How many of you have ever changed the screen layout? Most people keep what CargoWise gives them. So I'm on a shipment screen. I go to screen layout. This tells me exactly how the screen is laid out. So when I go to a shipment, everybody knows in the middle of a shipment, basic registration, middle top, all those different fields on a shipment, this is where you set the order for them. Everybody knows that, for example, consolidation details, that's not on the basic registration tab. That is on the second tab, which is additional detail, and they moved it to and it's on the left top. You can flip this. I have a client who says, you know what, I want to look at my consolidation on the shipment screen. So we did a flip. We went consolidation details and we moved it to the basic registration right top. And we took the custom fields box and we moved that to additional detail left top. and it looks like this. Same information, but now I can see my consolidation details, say that fast, on my shipment screen. Look at my details here. A lot more streamlined. I don't have all the details I used to have. I just have the ones I need. Guys, that's one of the hardest things with new people. When I do rollouts to new clients, what does this box do? What does that box do? What does this box do? Don't worry about it. You're not going to use that. That's only for air freight. Nope, don't worry. That's only for ocean. That's only for import. That's only for export. No, get rid of what you don't need. Make it as simple as possible for your operator. I only see what I need. I enter what I need. I move on. I work faster. I work quicker. Next, we've got custom fields. So on the milestone layout, I've got tasks, milestones, triggers, screen layout, and custom fields. Take a look at this. I can set up my custom fields here. So I set up 3 custom fields. One is custom status, that's a STR, and the other 2 are BOO, freight received and original bill of lading received. I stole this from a client's database. Look at this. Number 1, custom status. String is actually a pick list, so I can pick from the list. BOO is going to be a checkbox. So look at this. Original bill of lading received is next. Why? Because it's display sequence number 2. Freight received is number 3. There's freight received. So I can set up custom fields very easily on the workflow template. There's different types of custom fields. There's BOO, which is Boolean. It's basically a checkbox. Now, if you use the checkbox fields, you can't tie it back to task milestones or triggers on your workflow templates. So if you're going to use custom fields for workflow templates, and it's a yes/no question, I would suggest putting a date and time field in there. Why? Because if it's blank, don't use it. If it's got a date, use it. Yes, no. There's also a combo box. Those of you who've been using CargoWise for a while, this one's relatively new. It gives you 2 free form text boxes. The other types of custom fields, you've got decimal and integer, basically numeric fields with or without a decimal. STR is string. That is how you set up a pick list. In order to use a pick list, so here's how I set it up, here's how it looks in the record. Notice I have to have an add-on rule. What are my add-on rules? Well, strings are multiple choices. Add-on rules are my choices. So you can have multiple add-on rules if you have different types of jobs. How do you add an add-on rule? Well, look right here. Test for doc STR. You hit that little box, or you go to add-on rules under maintain workflow manager add-on rules, and you hit new, same thing. And you create your add-on rule. So I got this one, it's called test for doc. I went to code and description list and I enabled it. And I said, okay, A, B, or C are your 3 choices. So this is how you set up your multiple choices. You can add an add-on rule to anything. So if you have a date field, you can add an add-on rule and say it's mandatory. About the only one you don't want to make mandatory is a Boolean, I can never say that word, checkbox. Why? Because the only way to make a checkbox mandatory is to check it. So what's the point of a checkbox? You can make date fields mandatory. You can make multiple choices mandatory. Any questions on this? And last but not least is events. So events are never created through the template. But if you go to a job and you go to workflow and tracking, the last thing you're going to see here is going to be events. Events show every time something happens in the system. So these are all events that are tracked in the system. Check this out. There's departure. This departure was automatically populated through container tracking. This gate in was through container tracking. So those of you who are using container tracking, those of you who have never used container tracking, it's awesome. At first, I didn't like it either, but you can really see a lot of stuff in here. And you'll see all those events that happen to your container through container tracking or the error equivalent of it. Anytime you see something that says CargoWise One service, that means it came from the tracking system, either container tracking or the error equivalent. There are also items that you can manually change. So when a user manually changes something, their name will appear here. I stole this from one of our clients' database, so I whited out their user's name. But you get the idea. All right. Well, that is workflow in a nutshell. Couple things. Number one, I apologize. I've been like this cold has been hitting me pretty hard. For those of you who I haven't met before, my name is Ken Kozlowski. I'm the Director of Training at Lading. We are a Platinum Wise Service partner. A little bit about my background. I've been with Lading now for almost 3 years. Before that, I actually worked for CargoWise. After working for CargoWise, I joined up with Jazz Forwarding in Atlanta, and I did the training for their rollout worldwide, over 4,000 users. I helped roll out a program with Crowley here in Jacksonville, their warehouse and their implementation of their regular system as well. I joined Lading because we're a team. If there's anybody out there who tells you they know everything about CargoWise, run, because nobody knows everything about this system. It's tremendously complex. You know, we've got 14 people on 3 continents. We got a guy, all he does is create workflow for people all day long. We've got somebody who creates custom reports. We've got a specialist for that. We've got a few people in our custom software development and integration. So if you have an agent overseas who uses CargoWise, we can help you bridge that gap. If you have clients who have their own, order system, we can put that directly into CargoWise for you. We can do workflows for you. We work with web tracker customization to make it prettier and quicker. We also have a ton of different documentation out there. So we've all been doing this for a long time. So how do you use workflow and tracking? We've got an overview doc. What's your best process for end of month? We've got a process doc of things we recommend. How should you set up staff records and security? We got a document. How should you do that? Now, are there CargoWise videos for all this? Absolutely. CargoWise videos are more detailed than our docs. But what our docs do is they give you the probably 10 CargoWise videos, 20 CargoWise videos in a 20-page doc. Because I love those guys, but have any of you ever watched a CargoWise video and you're like, okay, I think this is the video I need. And you're watching, and it's 4 minutes and 28 seconds long. 1 minute goes by, haven't covered your topic. 2 minutes go by, haven't covered your topic. 3 minutes go by, haven't covered your topic. 3 minutes and 48 seconds. Okay, they're going to cover my topic. And they say, for more information on your topic, see another video. Happens to me all the time, drives me nuts. We don't go in as much detail, but we give you what you need to know. And that's all I have for you guys today. What questions can I answer for you? Anybody have any questions? Going once. Going twice. All right, Marty, you raise your hands. Thanks, Mark. Could we have a copy of your training manual? We will give you a copy of this session. We're actually going to give you a copy of the recording, and we're going to give you a PDF of this presentation. If you don't get it today, you'll get it worst case Monday. All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate your time. Give me a call or send me an email if you need anything. Have a good rest of your day.